Welcome back to Fast Break Focus, the podcast where we dive into the world of girls and women's basketball, from school sports to college hoops and beyond. Today, I'm excited to welcome a very special guest, Aisha Foy. Aisha is an NIL coach with extensive experience helping college athletes and high school athletes build their brands professionally and personal and navigate the ever evolving world of name, image, and likeness deals. Before her work in NIL space, Aisha was a standout guard at Radford University, where she made a major impact on and off the court. She is a former director of basketball recruiting at University of Kentucky. She's also a best-selling author. You could check out her book called "Success Is My Major." Today, we'll be diving into everything in the world of NIL, the do's and don'ts, how athletes can maximize their opportunities, and what the future holds in the game for this ever-changing movement. So whether you're an athlete looking to make the most of your platform or simply curious about the impact of NIL, this is a very special episode that you don't want to miss out on. Aisha, how you doing? Was that good for you?
That was great. That was great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about one of my favorite topics.
Thank you. We really appreciate you for jumping on. Before we just get into it, can you just give a background of your work in basketball? How did you get started into basketball? Where did that really come from?
Absolutely. So I would say it started when, I was a player. I was always focused on what my coaches was doing more than I was focused on um, me playing. I
Right.
was just thinking yesterday when I was probably about 12 or 13 and I started getting recruited and, started having big goals and stuff like that. I started this binder. And it was a binder and it was like all the top ESPN girls that were ranked. And I had all of their evaluations and I like printed them out because I'm like, I want somebody to say this about me. So
Right.
I'm like, what are these girls doing to get ranked? And it was like Chelsea Gray up there. It was like that class or a little bit older than that class. And I would just like print it all out. I would highlight their evals. And then, I will also, print out all the ESPN, like they would do a bunch of different articles that will help student athletes. They don't really do that anymore, but just help you with recruiting and things like that. And I would print out all the schools that I wanted to go to, and I knew I wanted to play in the tournament. So I would print out like the brackets from like the previous 5 years, and I was like, I'm only going to talk to these schools that's been in the tournament. So,
At 12
in
or
my
13,
opinion,
that's very dedicated. I must say, at 12, that's very dedicated. You was really locked in. You was really locked
no,
in.
no, 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 no. The crazy thing is, I spent more time doing that than I did in the gym by myself. So
Right.
I'm actually kind of like, I was just planning to be a professional in this, not really, not even a player. Um, but yes, I was doing that. So I say that to say I always had my eyes on being a college coach, and being in this space and helping student athletes, get to their goals and stuff like that, even while I was playing. So I'm from Virginia Beach, Virginia. I played with Boo
Shout
Williams,
out to
grew
the
up in the Boo
VA.
Williams organization. Yeah. My mom actually started a Boo Williams team in Norfolk called Norfolk Express. We actually have three players that are playing right now in the March Madness. Um, JJ with West Virginia, Isaiah James, NC State, and forgive me, I don't know the player that's at George Mason that played last night,
Hmm.
but she is one of my mom's players. She's a point guard, number three. Um, but yeah, so my mom started an organization in Norfolk, and shout out to JJ and AZ. They are about to head into the draft. But um, but yeah, though, so that was kind of like my childhood,
Hmm.
right? So once I got to college, I had a good idea of what I wanted to do. And then once I got to college, I started, to gain more interest in things professionally. But that's kind of where it started for me.
Right. Before we get started, hold on. Isaiah James, she's somebody I talked about on this pod. I believe
For
she's
real.
an amazing ball player. She is an
Okay.
amazing, tremendous talent. And I believe that NC State, just to get off topic for a second, NC State is going to go far in the tournament because I believe that they have the incredible talent to do it. Um, just so we can get started, just breaking down NIL. For those who aren't familiar with the NIL, what is the NIL basically?
So NIL is so simply put, everybody in America had the rights to use their NIL to do whatever they wanted to do, except for student athletes. And basically student athletes can get paid to build a brand. They can be incentivized for building a brand, right? Before it would be a violation because it'll be extra benefit, and things of that nature. But it's really just monetizing your personal brand, right? And it's not anything that's new. It's not anything that's catastrophic. It's just new to college athletes, right? And what we are seeing is in the early times of NIL, we're seeing the actual value of what these athletes are worth to these schools. Right. Now, some of these numbers are skewed. I think some of administration and some coaches are um exact are giving players or players are getting exaggerated amounts and it's gonna level out in a little bit.
Hmm.
However, if a player, a women's basketball player, or a collective can pay a women's basketball player um a salary or give them a collective check of 150 to $250,000, that meant all along these student athletes was meant that to that community and meant that to that university. The other side of NIL is the commercial side, right? So we're watching March Madness, and every other commercial is Flage, Page, Juju. That is true NIL, right? These student athletes are the stars of this entire event, right? Everybody's
Hmm.
watching this event. So why in the world wouldn't you use the stars to speak on the behalf of your product, right? So one of Flage's commercials is Experian, and it's also it's a financial company. I don't even know. I see Flage. I don't even know what the commercial is. I
Yeah,
do. I
she's on a
watch it,
million
but I
commercials
can't
right
think of it
now.
right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if I'm a company and I'm trying to get you to use my product, right? Why wouldn't I use the people that were watching to market that product? So, I mean, it's really just getting paid for your personal brand. And what we're realizing is that student athletes mean a lot to these universities and also mean a lot in, the commercial side as well, because um, in marketing, people need influencers, right? And this is, like I said, this isn't anything new. Like you get on YouTube and you see people promoting the product in the middle of their YouTube video. You see influencers or reality TV stars or rappers being included in brand deals. That's NIL, right?
Hmm.
NIL is just a term to make it exclusive for to separate it to mean student athletes, but you can just get paid to use your personal brand, your influence that you have.
Most definitely, most definitely. So, what are some steps that if like there might be a high school player out there watching right now that starting her journey? What are some of the steps that that person should take in order to get NIL and stuff like that and capitalize on their NIL, basically?
Yeah, I get a lot of pushback, and sometimes people say, don't they need to just be good? Don't they need to just be good?" And yeah, I mean that's the first step, right? I mean, if you're not a player that is at least looking to play at the next level, and that next level doesn't have to be elite D1. It could be mid-major, low major, D2, D3. Like if you are looking to continue to use your platform as a student athlete, you you qualify as an influencer, right? It don't matter what school you go to. If you are a student athlete, people are looking at you and people care about what you're doing, right? So yes, you do need to be good, and I believe your playing trajectory is going to be your playing trajectory, right? If
Right.
it was no NIL, Juju would still be the same exact player. I think you could be a little bit more focused now because you got these commercials, right?
Hmm.
I think it might have motivated, Flagey a little bit more. But at the end of the day, you have a talent, you have a work ethic, and your playing trajectory will be that regardless. Now, so I'm not saying you should do either or. That's the point I'm getting at, right? People think it's
Right.
an either or thing, right? Your playing trajectory is your playing trajectory. Um, but on top of that, you have to have things that are marketable. You have to have a personality that people want to talk to. You got to be good on camera, right? The reason why Flage is able to get commercial after commercial after commercial is why you think she's able to do that?
Because
Or
she's Flage's been a star since she was young, and
exactly,
she knows how to she knew early how to market her brand. She knew early that
exactly.
I'm a star really, and I don't mean this no disrespect. I believe LSU looked at her a little more because they understood who Flage was, And you're right, just marking herself because she was out rapping and she was out doing performances and also working on her game of basketball. She was able to get her name out there. That's why truly why we see her every single where. It's like Juju, like you said. We seen her in a commercial with LeBron early. You know, she put in the work ethic, but she also put herself in a position to capitalize on her name. And the name you right now, the name Juju is the first thing you think of is Watkins. You don't even think of the football player Juju. You don't think of nothing else. You hear Juju and Watkins is the first thing that come up. And I think that's big. I think that's big that women are now starting to use their they use their name and get further out. Now,
Yeah.
mhm,
No, I was gonna say so basically like to answer my questions like Flagey's in all these commercials is because Flagey knows how to be in a commercial. And I don't want to say, oh, she knows how to act, but sometimes that's what it is. Like she knows how to be a star, right? And a lot of these players, there's a lot of elite players out there, right?
mhm,
Is Paige and Juju exceptional? Yes, but there are a lot of elite players out there that could be getting more airtime. They could be getting more opportunity if they knew how to be in a commercial,
mhm,
right? So when these brands want athletes, they don't care about how you play. Now, some of them do want to make sure that you're actually playing in a tournament. Um, I mean, but a lot of them don't care. They care about your influence.
mhm,
So if I'm interviewing you for a brand deal, I'm interviewing your personality. Like I'm not looking at your stats. I don't, as a brand person, I don't care about your stats. I need you to make this commercial pop, right? And so to answer your question, the steps that you take is to start putting yourself out there, right? To start understanding that you are a brand, right? And if you don't carry that well, or if you don't want anything to do with it, sometimes that's okay. I'm not saying everybody has to be a star off the court, but if you are interested in it, you do have to work on it in the same way that you work on um your what you do on the court. You got to work on your brand and be marketable and have things that people care about.
right. Now, what are some misconceptions, some common mistakes people have when they're pursuing NIL deals?
I think a big misconception is that you don't need to work on it. Kind of what we were saying, like all I need to do is be good and NIL deals are gonna come. I think that's the biggest misconception is that they don't understand that this is a separate skill set, right? It's basketball, it was, academics, it's basketball and NIL. It's not I'm gonna be the best player I could be and NIL money is gonna come. That could be the situation for some men. But at the same time, my best example of that is a football player. His name is Raekwon Smith. He NIL year one, it was his world, right? He was on deal, deal, deal. He had over 100 deals. Um, and it's because of his personality. It's because he
Hmm.
actually pursued NIL deals. So I don't think people understand that you actually have to pursue NIL deals. And even the biggest star that Flage is, her mom is her momager, and they are pursuing these opportunities. And Juju, even though Juju is the greatest thing ever, she has an agent that is pursuing deals for her. So um, people don't recognize that this is a stream of activities on top of what you do on the court. Now, is there another side of NIL, the collective piece? Yes. And can you get paid through a collective? Can you get paid a good amount of money through a collective? Yes. But that's not the whole scope of NIL. And the collective piece you really can't control, you know what I'm saying? And you get something out of it, like you get a check out of it, but you don't get the essence of being a business person, being an entrepreneur. You know what I'm saying? All those benefits that these athletes are reaping from participating in NIL, you don't get that if you just focus on getting a collective check. And there's nothing wrong with that either, but people don't realize that it's two sides of NIL.
Well, you just turned me on something. I didn't know there was two sides. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's why I'm glad to have you on because I did certain things I don't know, and when I don't know, I'm gonna find somebody that does know, and they will definitely get the information out here. Like I said, we appreciate you definitely for coming on. How do you advise your athletes when they're building their brand to balance their brand, the basketball court, and athletics as well,
Yeah, so
and
one of
academics?
the
I'm sorry.
class yeah, one of the classes that I teach in my academy is time management, right? Time blocking, which everybody struggles with time management, so it's not you're not gonna get it right, but to have, some ideas in place to be like, okay, I really need to schedule out my day. I can't just say, oh, I want to post on social media and wake up and make a post and it's gonna be what I want it to be. Like, no, I need to have thinking time. I need to plan. So a lot of time management stuff, because a big barrier when I am working with athletes is like, I don't have time to edit a video. Okay, well, let's work on our time management, right? So that's a thing that I help advise. Um, Majority of the student athletes that I do work with have a good support system, like, parents that
Hmm.
make sure they're on their schoolwork. So I haven't had a athlete that struggles with school necessarily, or at least don't put in, tenacious effort when it comes to school. So it's finding the time to do the creative stuff. It's finding the time to um, to make that post or to make that video. But I mean, it's a lot of time, but it's you will spend that time either wasting it or doing something unproductive anyway. So you might
For
as well
sure.
do something productive.
For sure. And you spoke on a good support system. I think that is key to all of it because I don't believe that anybody is where they are currently right now without a good support system. And like you said, the momager, Flage, she does a really good job. She's been doing an amazing job since Flage was young, promoting her and getting her out there. So that's really good. I think that some people need to hear that. You need to have a good support system in order for your brand to grow, in order for yourself to grow, because it does. It's like raising kids. Like it's like takes a village. It a hundred
Mm.
percent takes a village in order for you to get to where you need to be. What are some of the just the red flags of NIL? Some things that people should avoid.
Um, that's a good question. It's also a loaded question too, right? So I think that people should, and it depends, right? So everybody has different intentions.
Hmm.
So if I'm a student athlete and I'm like, I don't care about this commercial stuff, I want to get the biggest bag ever, right? They will pursue NIL differently than someone else that's like, okay, I want to make sure that I take advantage of being able to build my brand and stuff like that. So I would say the first thing is just sitting down with yourself and realizing like what are your intentions. And then, I would say, read contracts. Either, I mean, it's a lot of resources out there. So, like, either you can get an attorney to read over contracts for you, which obviously that's the most safe thing. But there's also a lot of resources out there to make sure that you are not signing anything that signs your life away. Um, Anytime you're dealing with a collective contract, I do think you should deal with an attorney, especially if the the collective situation is way more than what you would need to pay an attorney with $1,500 or maybe even $500 to $700 to look over the contract, make sure it's good for you. So anytime if you are signing a big deal, you should have your own attorneys. Yes, the collective gonna have attorneys, but they are attorneys on the collective behalf. So have your own attorney, pay that however many dollars, and make sure the contract is good. And then you know, just take your time. It's a lot of bad things that can happen.
Hmm.
But just take your time and realize what you want. And, I'm hoping that people educate themselves, especially now. If I'm in high school, if I'm a high school parent, I'm gonna be educated enough not to be like, oh, what are the red flags? Right? Just educate yourself what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, so you're not um entering the situation scared.
Right,
If
right,
that makes sense.
right. Now you spoke on this just a little bit, but like, what are some other financial gains, or what are some other gains NILs can have, and not just the money side, or just just the popularity? Is there any other that you've seen that there's any other benefits to it?
Absolutely. I mean, so I did a workshop with parents, and it was one of my most engaging workshops. People really enjoyed it. Was the benefits of NIL that are not, monetary, and it's becoming a professional, right? Flage is a professional, right? She's not a professional basketball player, but she's a professional. She got it one, and we're not even talking about her rapping career. We talking about you shooting commercials. You got this schedule that's probably insane. right? You got to show up to these interviews. You got to show, you have a lot of things to deliver, right? So, and she's still a student athlete, so I'm not saying that she is the most mature person ever. I don't know her personally. But regardless, she's still a student athlete, but she's a professional, right? So she has a foundation of what it looks like, what it sounds like to be a professional, right? So, and that's the thing, and it doesn't have to be flage. I know student athletes that are doing a whole lot of different deals, local deals, and you have to deliver, right? So it teaches you professionalism. A big issue with student athletes was that, oh, I don't have time to do an internship,
Mm.
or I don't have time to network. Building your brand, that's the best thing you can do for networking is building your brand. Like everybody who's watching March Madness knows who Flage is, right? So um, and if I'm a local star too, I hate to keep saying like Flage and Juju. That's just because March Madness is happening right now.
Yeah, most
Um,
definitely.
but like there are a lot of local people that are locally, and if you know all the professionals because you've talked to them and have taught them about doing NIL with them, or you reach out to them, you build your network, right? That's the hardest thing about being a professional successfully is networking. You trying to find a job. Who do I need to reach out to? Who can help me with what my goals are even after basketball? So networking, conducting yourself as a professional, all of those excuses go out the window when we're saying like, oh, student athletes don't have time to get ready for life after. Like NIL actually incentivizes you to start getting ready for life after. Now you got to manage your money. Now you got to think about
Hmm.
what brands you want to be associated with. Now you got to think about what you like outside of basketball or what outside of your sport. And those things weren't incentivized at first, and now they are.
Most definitely. And just touch base for a second about just you don't have to get the national commercials that that these players are getting. I can only imagine the commercials Flage has in Baton Rouge or Isaiah James has in Raleigh right now.
Yeah,
Like I
but
can
like
only imagine.
not even them. I'm talking about like a mid-major D1 player
Hmm.
who was a semi-star in high school,
Hmm.
and you may have been like the top five player in your area, and maybe you didn't go to the Power Five school, maybe you're not participating in the tournament. Like you can still get a lot of NIL opportunity as long as you are a student athlete. Anybody can get NIL opportunity, but if you're a student athlete, you have more leverage to be able to get these deals. I'm talking about a high school student athlete that is, the star player in their city. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like
A lot of
people are
companies in your
really not
city that
tapping
want to
into it.
work with you. Once
Yeah,
yeah,
like
once
what
you a
companies
star
don't.
in your little in your area, your college town, a lot of people a lot of companies will gravitate towards you and want they actually want you on their brand deals and they actually want to see your face out there on their products because like you said, if you're a star in your city, everybody knows you and they want that. I had a guest on who said that if she played back in the day, she said that she wanted a car and she knew that if NIL was happening today, she wouldn't even care about the big deals. She just needed a car to get around on campus. So she would have went
Right.
to the local dealership and she was a star in our community, but she would have been like, "Hey, what do we do?" And I think that that's important too that you like you just said, you don't need just the national ones. That there are mid majors out there that definitely need the opportunities and are getting the opportunity, which I'm so happy to see right now. That is it is amazing to see. Um just to continue the conversation.
Let me comment on something that you said.
Of course.
So you said the companies will gravitate to you. That's not necessarily the case. You have to pursue it, right? You have to pursue these opportunities because the companies don't know, right? The companies aren't checking for student athletes to come work with. So the misconception back to my first point a while ago, like if I'm a student, let's say I'm in Virginia Beach and I'm the best player in Virginia Beach, I'm going to list out all the companies in Virginia Beach and I'm going to pursue these opportunities because they're not just gonna come knocking at your door. You
That's
gotta go
big.
out and get them.
That's big. That's big. Once again, we appreciate the knowledge and you just dropping jewels and stuff like that is very appreciated. Very appreciated. Um, just to get on the social media side of it, how important is social media presence? Not, I know you spoke earlier about the posting and stuff like that, but how important do you think social media is when trying to secure NIL deals and stuff like that?
I mean, if we're talking about like commercial NIL, like branding and stuff like that, not collective, I mean, it's everything. It's literally, if you don't have a social media presence, you won't get an NIL deal unless you won't get a commercial NIL deal.
Right, right. And I
I mean,
do.
it's everything.
Yeah, social
It's
media
ifs,
is
ands, buts about it. If you don't have a social media presence, and that doesn't mean you have to post every day, but I should be able to go on your page and know a little bit about your story, know a little bit about how you got to where you are, and know a little bit about who you are. So, a lot of these deals you actually are getting paid to post on social media. So if you don't have a social media brand, then
right.
yeah, don't even worry about it.
Right. Now, we are seeing it's a time where the people are really having a discussion about NIL and recruiting. Now, how would you advise your athletes to navigate not just, NIL is very important, but also choosing a school that is very good for you? How do you help your athletes choose that decision?
Yeah, as an NIL coach, the crazy thing is I advise people to not choose based off NIL. That is what I advise because um I'm a basketball coach first. I'm a basketball recruiter first. I know what it looks like when things you make the wrong decisions, not a good fit. If you do things only because of NIL and you get there and it's not a good fit, you just wasted time and you're probably not gonna get the money that you were promised in the recruiting process, right? Because you're probably gonna leave. So I say don't make decisions based off NIL. You can have conversations, and you can lay out all your options. And a lot of people that I work with, um, they have the insight and the knowledge to be able to negotiate a collective deal, right? Make sure we differentiate the difference in recruiting. If you negotiate a collective deal, then um, you have your options, but you don't just go to the highest bidder, right?
Mm,
Because I know athletes and parents that I work with that they didn't go to the highest bidder. They actually chose the least amount of NIL money, the collective money that was available at that school and that collective. Um, But that's just a part of it. Like you want to make sure you choose the right fit, especially in women's basketball. In
mhm.
football, that's a different story. In men's basketball, it's a different story. They're going to the highest bidder, and maybe not all of them, but I know that's a big consensus is going to the highest bidder. But yeah, you want to weigh out everything. You want to go through the recruiting process like NIL is not a thing. And then when that conversation comes, you got your top 5 schools or your top 10 schools, and then you negotiate accordingly. But if you're going in just about NIL, then you just setting yourself up to lose.
Right.
Now, the other side of NIL, remember it's two sides of NIL, right? So if I'm NIL driven as a student athlete, commercial side of NIL, I'm gonna think about the fan base, right?
Hmm.
So regardless of what is offered in the collective, I am gonna want to consider a school that has a good fan base because if I go to a school with a better fan base, that means my NIL goes up. My NIL, like not a dollar amount, but my value as a person goes up because I'm being seen in front of more people. There are people coming to my games, you know. So now if I'm going to do a deal with the company, I can say, hey, I got 10,000 people at all my games. If I if I'm associated with your brand, let's say Chipotle, if I'm associated with you, Chipotle, I know for a fact 10,000 people are going to be aware of it because we have, 10,000 fans, right?
Hmm.
So that part of it, the fan base, the support, the location, right? Maybe Juju's NIL isn't what it is if she's not in LA because you shoot commercials in LA. So I could
Hmm.
spend half my day being a student athlete and I could spend half my day going to shoot all these commercials. It may not be the same if I'm not in LA. Caitlin Clark, for example, um, choosing to go to Iowa, Caitlin Clark would be the same player. I don't know if Caitlin Clark would be the same player if she goes and play in a different system and she can't play her game and shoot the
Hmm.
ball from half court whenever she feel like. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so choosing a school based off of like the value of your NIL, not a dollar amount, but maybe if I want to stay home, Malaysia, right? She chose to stay home. Her
Hmm.
NIL goes up. Her NIL value goes up because I'm playing in front of my people. And maybe I'm not as stressed because I can go home on the weekends if I want to
Home cooked
and
meal.
not worry about being in a place with no people, no fans, no, you know what I'm saying? So those things are things that you think about in the NIL era, not a dollar amount.
Right. And one of the last things I have for you, something I always end with, is somebody's quote. I need an Aisha quote, something that you definitely want the people to think about always is like, you know what, if you learn nothing from this interview right here, this is what you need to stick with you.
Um,
Sorry to put you on the
I got
spot like that.
a
Sorry,
I,
sorry
I
to
do
put
a
you.
lot of reading and I got a lot of like inspirational stuff.
Uh-huh.
But I won't say it's a quote necessarily, but I will say like knowledge is power. Like in context of our conversation, like educate yourself. Knowledge is power and gossip, that's not knowledge.
Right.
Like you knowing what everybody else is getting or you hearing the latest gossip about NIL, that's not knowledge. Now, that could be insightful information. I'm not saying that's not insightful information, but it's not knowledge. So knowledge is power. The more information that you have, the more leverage that you'll have when you're in these situations.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. This last question here is completely off base. Um, I recently just moved to the Virginia area, so can you just speak on the basketball of Virginia, just the Virginia basketball because it's always been pop, especially in the Northern Virginia, DMV area. But can you just speak a little bit about Virginia basketball a little bit and why it's so special?
Yeah, what part of Virginia you in? That makes a difference.
Okay, I'm about an hour from Richmond. I'm in Heathville. It's a very small community.
Okay, okay. So you in 804 area. Okay,
Yep,
okay. So
exactly. Yep.
I would say 75, yeah, 757. That's where I'm from,
Mm-hmm.
right? 757 to 804 is I think is a big basketball community, right? So even being in Virginia Beach, we play our state championship in at VCU, which is in Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
So like it's not hard to find good basketball around here. Like it's a basketball place. That's one thing that kept me motivated while I was a student athlete. Was just like the support and you being a role model and things like that. So now it's super dope to be in a place like Virginia because like this is what we do. We play sports.
Mm-hmm. I've
AAU is
learned.
huge, obviously. Like Boo
I've learned.
Williams, the godfather of AAU that's
Mm-hmm.
respected in every part of the country is right here in Virginia with the Boo Williams Sportsplex and things like that. All the Nike teams come to Virginia to play in one of the sessions of the EYBL circuit. You know, it's just it's just a place, and then
Right.
also the DMV part of Virginia as well is a lot of good talent in the area too. Like, all of the DMV, which I don't consider the 757. It's not even me. The
Right.
757 is not considered the DMV, but the DMV part of Virginia, northern
Mm-hmm.
part of Virginia, and Maryland and DC, like it's just filled with a lot of talent. Allen Iverson,
Mm-hmm.
Michael Vick, it's just what we do.
That's from your town right there. That's from your area right there, Mike Vick. Hey,
757, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
Uh-huh. And this just the last thing. I did see an interview of you recently. You were just speaking about just growing up in basketball and you did speak a little bit here that you was more of, more worried about the coaching side of it. But I did see in a former interview you was just like, um you didn't feel like you were the one of the best and you just worked hard to where you're at now. Can you just speak on just dedication? I just need something about, the just staying dedicated, staying focused to the craft, sometimes knowing yourself, knowing that I'm not gonna be in the WNBA. So, I can switch gears and still be here.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, you always want to put yourself in a position where you're being challenged, right? And I had all the confidence in the world, right? So I just didn't let it. I'm also realistic as well, right? So that's just how much talent was in um, where I grew up, the people I played against, and things like that. The guards that were in the class before, in front of me, and the guards that was in the class under me, like it was, people talk about reclassifying, right? And I thought about reclassifying when I was a student athlete, But shoot, the class under me was more stacked than my class. So I was like, well, put me at a disadvantage if I actually were classified. So, it was just a lot of talent where I grew up in it, and but that doesn't mean I thought less of myself either,
Right.
right? So I just think it's important to put kids in situations where they're being challenged so they can just continue to work, right? We talked about, being on boot team. And the first time we was introduced with we Boot starts earlier now with junior EYBL,
Hmm.
but the first time you get the opportunity to play on boot team is when you are um rising ninth grader and a rising 10th grader. And shoot, I'm scared I ain't gonna make the team. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
how competitive it was. And, again, that's not me thinking less of myself in any capacity. Like I'm a super confident person, but just also being realistic and knowing that you got to continue to work is super important. So sometimes social media gets to kids' heads. Sometimes it's the parents that
Hmm.
gets to the kids' heads too, right? Like I didn't grow up with my mom in my ear telling me how good I was, right? My mom, like, that wasn't even a thing. Like you showed up at practice and you seen the good players, or you showed up at an event and you watched the games and you saw who was good and you saw the other good players that measured up to you. So, um, just keep working. Like
Hmm.
keep working. Like you probably won't see Fly J, Page, or Juju talk about how they've made it, right? You
Right.
know, and that doesn't mean they don't know how good they are, but they also know that you just got to continue to work. That's just having a sound mind, and sometimes kids don't have a sound mind, or a lot of times it's the adults that actually make it worse. You,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, like my mom she was in charge of the whole organization, right? So like she wasn't sitting here talking to me about how good I am and what I need to be doing all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like I just saw it,
Right.
so sometimes sometimes the parents that actually mess the kids.
Yeah. Now, now I promise the last question I have for you. You're just saying some things
It's
that
all
just
good,
you're saying things
it's
that
all
I've recently talked about, and just the parent side of it, because you spoke to, there are a lot of today, and I mean no disrespect to the parents out there today, but a lot of parents tell their children too young, in my opinion, that they're good. You know what I mean? And it sort of gives them an unreal confidence of themselves. Now, don't get me wrong, you're supposed to tell your children that you're good, but I do believe in being honest with your children about where their, like you said, their basketball trajectory is going. Um, Speak on just a little bit, just dive a little bit more on your mom and how impactful she was to allowing you to explore other opportunities and not just knowing that, hey, my daughter just wants to play. She's playing basketball right now. I'm gonna help her get to the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, my mom was responsible for the whole organization. So like her job or her mission was cultivating an environment. She had to go find good players. So she wasn't worried about, I was gonna be there, but she wasn't worried about telling me how good I was, right? So her job was to find players that were better than me, and not even comparing it to me, but she was building an organization,
Hmm.
right? So you have teams for all the way from high school all the way where we started at with 10 and under.
Hmm.
So 9, 10 teams, and sometimes we had two teams per age group. So like it was to like her job was to find people that was really good and build an elite organization. So um, I think that played a part in me just not being the focus, and me just knowing that I need to work hard. I think parents, they want the best for their kid. And I think the best thing that you can do for your kid is put them in different environments.
Hmm.
Like sometimes parents like to do this convincing thing, right? And it's nothing that you can say to make your child better than what they are, right? And one, your child needs to believe in themselves, So if I know I'm good as a player, like I don't need my parent doing all this vouching. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, what is that? You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? What
Hmm.
is that? And I don't mean no disrespect, but people need to understand that. And when it comes to college recruiting, like I need a player that's gonna help me keep my job. Like a parent, I mean, a coach is not gonna say that, but that's what it is. Like
Right.
you talking to me right now, is not going to help me keep my job when the AD is looking at my record and we ain't get enough wins. It's nothing you can say to me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So it's
100%.
just this warped. And I talk to parents a bunch. And, no disrespect to any of their parents I talk about. And I'm a really good listener too. So I allow them to talk and tell me what they need to tell me. But at the same time, like, again, it's nothing that can be said that can change this evaluation of your
Right.
kid. I sat there and that doesn't mean my opinion is 100% correct, but it's still my opinion.
Hmm.
And somebody else's opinion is their opinion. And you know what I'm saying? So there are things that parents can do to put their kid in the best situation possible and to make them better, but trying to talk or change an evaluation or change a ranking, like it's kind of like I just think it's pointless.
Very
And if
pointless.
you are doing it, trying to play a game, like don't do it in front of your kid. Because your
Hmm.
kid need to know that you don't even think they're that good. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So they can keep working hard to impress you. Because this is the thing. Kids, and this is a generic thing that I'm saying right now, it's not
Hmm.
100% true. But kids want to impress their parents, right? So if you already think your kid is number one, why they need to work harder? The person that I care to impress the most is already satisfied with who I am, right? And I feel like the kids that have the most grit and the most determination are the ones that have the parents that don't verbally say all the time that they think the world of their kid. The ones that are they're harder on their kids. And not harder meaning like I fussed them out after the game. That's silly. But I mean the ones like, okay, like keep working. Like, all right, they keep their kids humble, you know. Um, those are the ones that I actually see the best product coming from that type of situation. Like I can rave over a kid sometimes, and I go up to the parent and they be like, she all right. You know what I'm saying? Those are the kids that I'm actually more impressed with. The parents like, whatever.
Right.
You
Right.
know? Not like, oh, I knew she was the best player here. Like, who cares?
Right.
Like, you know? Um, like it was even one player, she was on the West Coast, and I thought it really stood out to me because I felt like the parent went the parent really made sure that the kid didn't get full of themselves. Like she was on my list, and I put this write up about her, and then the dad will always respond, like post it and say, it's day by day. It's always day by day. And I thought I felt like that parent was being intentional about making sure that yeah, you're being recognized, but it don't matter, you know.
Right. It's
So
always work to
sometimes
do.
parents need, yeah, yeah. People have different personalities with it as well, but it does rub off on the kid as well, so
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Aisha. We really appreciate you for jumping on the podcast. If you like I said, her book Major Success is My Major, sorry. Go ahead, check it out right now. You can get on Amazon. Where else can you get it?
you can go to successmajorbook.com
Hmm.
and go there.
Gotcha.
But
Thanks
you
so
can
much.
Amazon too.
Gotcha. Thank you so much, Aisha, for she is a coach. She is a mentor. She's an NIL coach. She's so much more. And thank you so much for joining on the podcast. And we appreciate you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. We enjoyed the conversation.